but on balance, I support Bitcoin, I'm not an investor. The only publicly traded stock I own is Tesla, and the only significant thing I own outside of Tesla is my SpaceX stock that could help create both companies. So, but apart from that, I do own Bitcoin, and Tesla owns Bitcoin, SpaceX owns Bitcoin, and then I do personally own a bit of Ethereum and Dogecoin, of course. I mean, the reason I've put so much of my life energy into Tesla, which is a lot. In fact, I would say that I've had some pretty tough life experiences, and Tesla is responsible for probably 2/3 of all personal and professional pain combined. Just to give you a sense of perspective there. I might pump, but I don't dump. So if that is true, then the most ironic and entertaining outcome would be that the cryptocurrency that was started as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies ends up being the leading cryptocurrency. That would be the most ironic outcome. We want to do a little bit more diligence to confirm that the percentage of renewable energy usage is most likely sort of at or above 50%, and that there is a trend towards increasing that number. And if so, then Tesla will resume accepting Bitcoin.
Hey, I'm Stephen, and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So in this video, I've cut together the highlights of everything Elon Musk said at the B word, a discussion regarding Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So in this video, I'm first going to play the highlights. I've cut out all the pauses, the ums and the ahs as well, just the solid meat and bones of what Elon had to say. And at the end of the video, I'll share my thoughts and comments where I think it's relevant. So with that said, let's get into it. If you love crypto, stocks, and free stuff, or just want to help out the channel, check out these great offers. BlockFi are launching the world's first Bitcoin rewards credit card. People in the US can earn 1.5% Bitcoin back on every purchase with no annual fee using the BlockFi Bitcoin rewards credit card. Check out the link in the description. And for a limited time, you can get up to $250 in crypto bonuses when funding a new account on BlockFi, where you can use cryptocurrency to earn interest, borrow cash, and buy or sell crypto. If you want your free crypto, use the link in the description. And if you'd like up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $300 just for opening an account. And if you make an initial deposit of $5 or more, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $2,000. Seriously. Free stocks? Yes, please. And finally, if you're in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake, also linked in the description. Thanks so much for your support, guys. Let's get back to it.
Elon, what's influenced your views on Bitcoin?
Well, I've thought about money for quite a while, obviously since the PayPal days, and then the companies that preceded that, X.com, which I created, and Confinity, which Peter Thiel, Max Levchin, Luke Howry, and others created. And we combined the companies and made PayPal. So I've been thinking about money for a long time, and really, it's best to think of money as an information system, primarily an information system for labor allocation. For practical purposes, it exists in a series of heterogeneous databases, like very different databases in bank mainframes around the world. It moves quite slowly in reality. It may seem to move fast sometimes, and it does with PayPal, which is real time. But the vast majority of the systems out there are batch processing. So the actual reconciliation may take 1 to 5 business days, sometimes longer. And you have the ACH system, which is ancient and still in operation, which allows transfers effectively like a check would be an ACH transfer, but it's not secure. And you've got the credit card systems, which are also not secure. It would be like handing your username and password to a stranger in a restaurant if you buy a meal. So there's definitely an opportunity for something that is better from an information theory standpoint, and there you can think of it like data on a network. I think is the way to view it. What has the most throughput? What has the least error? What drops the fewest packets? Fraud, for example, being a source of error, and government interference in currencies being a source of error. But it's fundamentally an information system. So I think it makes sense to support something that improves the quality of information with which we conduct the economy. And Bitcoin is a candidate for that. It does, I think, some things well, and it's obviously it's evolving, and there are additional things like Lightning being done on top of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin per se is mostly solving for scarcity, or rather solving for essentially having no throat to choke, decentralized. So there's no one who can be coerced in any way to empty their Bitcoin account. Well, I guess they could technically, but on an individual basis, but the system as a whole cannot. And it has an open ledger, which is also quite good. But transaction volume is low. Transaction cost is high. And usability for the average person is not yet very good, but it has a lot of potential. And I should say that, like, I'm not, and I apologize for taking a long time, but there certainly is a lot to say. In general, I'm a supporter of Bitcoin and the idea of cryptocurrency in general. But as I've said publicly, we do need to watch out for crypto taking, especially Bitcoin, using proof of work to maybe use energy that's maybe a bit too much and not necessarily good for the environment. But on balance, I support Bitcoin, and I'm not an investor. The only publicly traded stock I own is Tesla, and the only significant thing I own outside of Tesla is my SpaceX stock that helped create both companies. So, but apart from that, I do own Bitcoin, and Tesla owns Bitcoin, SpaceX owns Bitcoin, and I do personally own a bit of Ethereum and Dogecoin, of course.
I'm curious your opinion on this. You mentioned earlier about Bitcoin's throughput, or the importance of throughput, maybe some concerns around Bitcoin. Can you speak? Do you think Bitcoin can become peer-to-peer cash?
Bitcoin does have a fundamental scarcity limit at the base layer that's designed in. That doesn't mean you can't have some layer 2 system in theory, like Lightning. And I understand Lightning is doing well in some small countries. There's some question mark as to whether you need a money transmitter license. Just a debate as to whether that's needed, given that it is not open ledger. So, and that's a whole separate debate, of course. But Bitcoin by itself simply cannot scale to be the monetary system for the world at base layer. But with a second layer, this is possible, depending upon how that second layer is implemented. And that's part of why I think there may be some merit, something that may seem silly, like Ethereum, like Dogecoin. I think Ethereum also, like I said, the three things I own outside of SpaceX and Tesla, and also obviously it's a Neuralink and Boring Company, but of any significance are Bitcoin by far, and then some Ethereum and some Doge. So if the price of Bitcoin goes down, I lose money. I'm not sort of, I might pump, but I don't dump. So it's not a case of I definitely do not believe in getting the price high and selling or anything like that. And I would like to see Bitcoin succeed. This is not a slam on Bitcoin. There's some merit to considering something that has higher max transaction rates and a lower transaction cost, and kind of seeing how far you could take a single layer network where the exchanges act as a de facto second layer. I think you can probably take that further than people realize. And as bandwidth increases over time, latency decreases. SpaceX's Starlink is actually playing a role in this. And I think long-term, people will probably have access to worldwide access to gigabit level connectivity at low latency, and so at low cost. And so then your base layer could do a lot of transactions if you take that into account. So yeah, but like I said, Bitcoin with a layer 2 system, so they could scale to do a vast number of transactions. Same goes for Ethereum. Yeah, I mean, these things are helpful to use the physics tools of thinking and say, scale up, scale down, and see if it still makes sense. So if scaling up the transaction block doesn't make sense, why don't you scale it down and have it be, so that somebody, with a laptop from 2008 can still run a Bitcoin node. Why not slow it down? Oh, you want to slow it down? Well, maybe you're at the wrong number then.
There's actually there's members in the community that do want to slow it down, but I understand your point.
It's silly. The reality is, the average person is not going to run a Bitcoin node. So this is and Bitcoin, it was a lot of clever ideas, but These parameters were set, I don't know, what, in 2008 or something, maybe 2009. And there's been some improvements since then, but not a lot. So, it's sort of like if in 2008 there was still a non-trivial number of people on modems. So, now it is quite common to get 100 megabit connection just for a house. Some houses have gigabit connections. So, and that trend is obviously in the direction of higher bandwidth and lower latency. And if somebody else doesn't do it, Starlink certainly will. So I have high confidence that you will be able to maintain a decentralized finance system while still having a much bigger blockchain, aka ASCII text ledger, a hash ledger. You can make the hash ledger bigger without suffering from decentralization as the average connectivity improves, obviously.
One idea would be to to put a Bitcoin full node in Starlink terminals. That way more people would be running it.
Actually, I have run this by the team at one point. I had this idea, which is kind of off the wall, but like, let's say you need a little space heater, and normally your space heater would just be pure entropy. Well, what if that space heater was also a Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge mining node? Pick your currency, and so then you'd be heated up, and you would also mine your crypto and have connectivity in one.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I mean, better than running a space heater.
So you're drawn to Dogecoin a little bit. Are there any other gaps in Bitcoin that you see that cause you to be drawn towards Dogecoin?
I mean, I think there's Doge has the Doge community, I think, is somewhat irreverent, obviously, and has great memes and loves dogs, and I love dogs and memes, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's Occam's razor, which is the simplest answer is the most likely. It's a summary of Occam's razor. The simplest answer is the most likely one. Then there's a friend of mine came up with a variant on that the most ironic outcome is the most likely one. And then I have a variant on that, which is the most entertaining outcome is the most likely one. So if that is true, then the most ironic and entertaining outcome would be that the cryptocurrency that was started as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies ends up being the leading cryptocurrency. That would be the most ironic outcome. I do think that there appears to be a positive trend in the energy usage of Bitcoin. Actually, part of this is due to the drop in Bitcoin price. I mean, what I observed, or what I thought I was seeing, there may be some disagreements on this, but from when Tesla announced that it had acquired Bitcoin and was doing Bitcoin transactions, there was a massive run-up in the Bitcoin price, and also a massive increase in the amount of energy used to mine Bitcoin. I understand renewable energy quite a bit. I mean, Tesla does solar and interacts with a lot of wind generation through our mega pack, because basically you need to store energy from wind and from solar. So we're pretty plugged into the renewable energy industry, and there's just no way that you could basically double or triple the amount of energy in such a short period of time with renewables. But you could shovel coal that fast, and so I was like, look, this is too sketchy. Tesla's mission is accelerating the advent of sustainable energy. We can't be the company that does that and also not do appropriate diligence on the energy usage of Bitcoin. So all I did was I said, look, we're going to suspend Bitcoin transactions for now. We're not selling any Bitcoin, nor am I selling anything personally, or nor is SpaceX selling any Bitcoin. Again, I want to emphasize SpaceX, Tesla, and I own Bitcoin. I also own a little bit of Ethereum and Doge, but the companies just own Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin that I own is worth much more than the Ethereum or Doge. So clearly, if these actions negatively affect me financially, if I was purely financially motivated, then I would not express this reticence about Bitcoin energy usage. It looks like Bitcoin is shifting a lot more towards renewables, and a bunch of the heavy-duty coal plants that were being used, unequivocally being used, this is not a question mark, have been shut down, especially in China. So we want to do a little bit more diligence to confirm that could confirm that the percentage of renewable energy usage is most likely sort of at or above 50%, and that there is a trend towards increasing that number. And if so, then Tesla will resume Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin. Yeah. So I think we want to just do a little bit more diligence, and I think, but most likely the answer is that Tesla would resume accepting Bitcoin. Most likely.
Elon, I'm not quite sure if you saw the paper that Square and Ark did together on making Bitcoin mining a part of a utility, a broad-based utility ecosystem, whereby, the overage from sunshine or wind powers the Bitcoin mining machine, thereby enabling the proliferation of renewables to a much faster extent, or at a faster rate than otherwise would be the case. What do you think of that?
Well, the problem is that in order to operate so-called mining or hashing rigs, in order to operate a bunch of hashing rigs effectively, you have to run them 24/7, which means you need base load. You can do that with solar and wind plus battery, but if you only did it based on solar or wind overage, your hashing rig utilization would be much less. So you'd be at a disadvantage. Hydro or geothermal are great for as renewable means. I'm also pro nuclear. I think modern nuclear power plants are safe, contrary to what people may think. I really think it's possible to make extremely safe nuclear. I'm talking about fission. You don't need fusion. And then of course fusion, you just got that big fusion reactor in the sky called the sun. It comes up every day. But I think a combination of solar and wind plus stationary storage will get you that base load, so you can run hashing 24/7.
What the industry can do to accelerate the transition to renewable energy? Elon, specifically, could Tesla Energy or Starlink play a role?
I think Tesla can play a role. Tesla's literal reason for existence. I mean, the reason I've put so much of my life energy into Tesla, which is a lot. In fact, I would say that I've had some pretty tough life experiences, and Tesla is responsible for probably 2/3 of all personal and professional pain combined, just to give you a sense of perspective there. So this is a hella hard situation, but we do commercial solar retrofit, as well as the solar roof, and we make consumer battery packs called Powerwall for houses and small businesses, and then the utility scale, which are gigantic. We've done now a number of gigawatt hour installations. That's a lot, and a lot of them actually have been for load leveling the grid. Mostly they are. And combined with the first really big one we did, which is a 100 megawatt installation in Australia, that's actually helped stabilize a huge portion of the South Australian grid, because it's able to react so fast. In fact, at first, because they've got a billing system in Australia that I think works at the sort of millisecond level, and we were operating at the microsecond level. So the system was operating so fast that the measuring system couldn't see it. So Tesla's certainly doing a lot to enable renewables, especially wind and solar. And in fact, the limiting factor for us right now is cell production. So we need to get the Tesla internal battery cells produced, as well as increase supply from suppliers. And generally, when I talk to our suppliers and they say, how many cells would you like us? How many cells can you make? Because sometimes they're concerned, well, is Tesla going to compete with them on cells? I'm like, no. If you want to make the cells, be our guest. It's just that we need a crazy number of batteries, and they need to be done. It obviously needs to be mined and produced and manufactured in an ethical and environmentally sound way. So, at Tesla, we really do aspire to be the good guys, to be a company that people can believe in. It doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, but that's what we try. But I think generally, hydro, especially existing hydro, is good for mining. Geothermal, there's lots of places in the world that have geothermal energy. Nuclear is also good. As I said earlier, the expectation is not the energy production must be pure as the driven snow, but it can't be it also cannot be using the world's dirtiest coal, which it was for a moment there. So, that's just difficult for Tesla to support in that situation. So, but I do think long-term renewable energy will actually be the cheapest form of energy. It just doesn't happen overnight. But as long as there is a conscious and determined and real effort by the mining community to move towards renewables, then obviously Tesla can support that. If you own crypto in an exchange and the exchange does not give you your private keys, it's not clear that you own anything. I mean, if there's something that, if that exchange breaks or is hacked or is subject to seizure by the government or something like that, your crypto is gone. So in order to actually have a properly decentralized finance, which I'm a fan of, I think it makes sense, then you have to own your private keys. And you should be the only one who has your private keys. So if you're the only one who has the private keys, then you own it. If someone else has your private keys, effectively they own it too, and the security of your crypto is then dependent upon them or any entity that can affect them. So I think what Jack's doing sounds like a good idea to have a hardware wallet that's the only thing that contains your private keys. In terms of sort of empowering the people, which I very much believe in, then I think you want to have people have their own wallets and be the only ones that have the private keys to that wallet. So-called wallet, the other side of the crypto.
Right. I agree, and I think
I generally think we should do things that benefit the people as a whole and increase the probability that the future is good. To me, it just seems self-evident that we should take these set of actions most likely to make the future good. And I think probably crypto, or at least some of the cryptocurrencies, will make the future better, most likely. It's not, I always think of these things in terms of probabilities, but I think it's probably better for there to be a prosperous Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, maybe some others in the future. And I think it can have an empowering effect for individuals and increase the power of the individual relative to government. Government is just a corporation in the limit. So sometimes some people are like against corporations, but for government. It's like, guys, government is just a corporation in the limit. It's the biggest corporation of all, and it's got a monopoly on violence. If you don't like corporations, you should really hate government.
What is your hope for Bitcoin? How it can impact the world?
My hope for, I guess, crypto in general is that it can improve the efficiency of the information system that we call money. So if the core efficiency of money is improved and money has less error, where, like I said, error is like any kind of government interference or fraud or anything like that, this will naturally lead to basically a better standard of living and more power to the individual, which I very much agree with.
Some fascinating insights there and a lot of new information from Elon Musk, which I've got to say is rare. Most of the time when Elon Musk is having discussions, people are asking the same questions we've heard 4 million times. So we've learned some really valuable insights. In particular, the fact that Elon Musk's largest private cryptocurrency holding is actually Bitcoin by a significant margin. There's been some speculation that Elon Musk's Dogecoin wallet was found. I posted a video about this a couple of months ago, so I'll put a card in the corner if you missed that. It seems very likely, not 100% certain, but I'm saying about 85% probability that this is Elon Musk's Dogecoin wallet and it contains $1.5 billion worth of Dogecoin. At least it did at the time of discovery. That suggests to me, given the fact that Elon was emphasizing he had much more Bitcoin, significantly more Bitcoin than he did Dogecoin, that he could possibly hold 5, 10, 15 plus billion dollars worth of Bitcoin. Of course, this is pure speculation, but it does seem to hint that Elon Musk is very bullish on Bitcoin over the long term. We also learned that both Tesla and SpaceX hold Bitcoin. Not really news. We know that Tesla was accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment and acquired around $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin earlier this year. This has divided a lot of Tesla investors, created a lot of interesting discussion as well, but I think at the end of the day, it's just noise. They got a fraction of their cash now in Bitcoin. Big fucking deal. Build a bridge, get over it, next. And we also know that SpaceX was accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment for launches, so it's no surprise to learn both of these companies hold Bitcoin. Elon also clarified that that's the only cryptocurrency that either of these companies currently hold. And just a little bit of a side note for you guys, I'm sure there's a lot of people watching that are glad to know that both Tesla and SpaceX continue to hold their Bitcoin positions and that Elon is super bullish on Bitcoin, by far and away the largest position in his portfolio. I've just had a look at the stats of my Teespring merch store, and funnily enough, the very shirt that I'm wearing today, can't be bothered standing up anymore, may or may not be wearing pants, and you guys probably don't want to see that, but I've just discovered that the Tesla plus Bitcoin to the moon shirt that I produced a few months ago when Tesla had announced they'd actually purchased Bitcoin is, believe it or not, the 4th best selling piece of merch on the entire merch store. The only better selling pieces of merch, Tesla stock to the moon, don't bet against Elon, and Tesla stock to Mars. And by the way, if you'd like to get your own merch, if you'd like to get your own Bitcoin plus Tesla to the moon merch, there's a link in the description, shirts, mugs, hoodies, and more. The point I'm getting at here is there's a lot of Tesla investors who happen to be hyper bullish on Bitcoin as well. And a huge bombshell in this conversation, Elon Musk admitting that he's had conversations with the Starlink engineers. By the way, just a side note for those of you that don't know Starlink, global broadband internet satellite constellation, about the possibility of Starlink internet satellites serving dual purposes, not only providing broadband internet access, but also potentially being cryptocurrency mining nodes. For those of you who aren't hyper nerdish there and didn't really understand what Elon Musk was talking about in terms of entropy, etc., if you need to heat the satellite, why not potentially generate the heat by mining cryptocurrency? Two birds, one stone. The fact that Elon Musk has revealed this conversation actually happened gives a little bit more credence to the wild speculation I began to sort of think out loud a few months ago on this channel, and that was that in the future, Tesla may be open to the idea of allowing users to utilize some of the spare compute in their Tesla vehicles and potentially also their home battery and or solar setup to mine cryptocurrency. Now, this may sound a little bit insane at first glance, but in particular with solar and a home battery, if you are generating an energy surplus, what better way to incentivize customers to adopt this technology, again, Tesla's mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, than to allow them to print money by having this system autonomously mine cryptocurrency for them to subsidize the cost of the actual hardware, the battery and or the solar. Given the fact that Elon had the discussion with Starlink engineers about potentially using Starlink internet satellites to mine cryptocurrency, do you think it's possible that Elon may have had these conversations, or at least in the back of his mind, considered these ideas at Tesla? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys will recall from Tesla's 2016 Secret Master Plan Part 2, they explicitly state in their master plan that part of their strategy to achieve their mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy is to help customers subsidize the cost of purchasing a Tesla by allowing their Tesla to become a robotaxi and autonomously generate revenue for them while they sleep. This is a similar strategy applied to home batteries and solar. I think there's something in this. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think that the discussions have certainly either taken place or will at some point in the future. If it's feasible, why not? Elon Musk also reiterating that soon after Tesla announced they'd purchased Bitcoin, they saw a huge spike, a doubling or a tripling of the amount of energy involved in Bitcoin mining, and a huge proportion of that from dirty, polluting energy sources, particularly coal. As Elon said, you can't scale up renewable energy that fast, but you can shovel coal that fast. And many coal power plants were literally being fired up specifically to mine Bitcoin. In the wake of that, it just seemed unconscionable and counter to Tesla's mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy to continue accepting and supporting Bitcoin until such point as things change. And Elon Musk said it's most likely that Tesla will again resume accepting Bitcoin payments in the future once they can see in the data that more than 50% of Bitcoin mining energy is coming from renewable sources and that the trend is continuing in that direction. And on this note, I can't help but once again poke the bear. At the time of Tesla's announcement of accepting Bitcoin, and then subsequently deciding to stop accepting Bitcoin payments, and then explaining the reasoning behind that, I discovered that there was a relatively small but vocal cohort of Bitcoin babies who, let's be honest, probably live in their mum's basement, are probably adult virgins, take zero personal responsibility, and exemplify the fact that the bell curve is real. The energy usage went up and most of it wasn't sustainable, therefore counter to Tesla's mission. A lot of these people just literally lost their fucking shit. I had a ton of people when I was covering this event enraged in the comments, I'm unsubscribing, fuck you, just losing their shit. What I learned during this entire process is that there's a small but very vocal subset of brain-dead Bitcoin babies out there who are cult-like in their thoughts and actions. I don't know if thoughts are the right word. They don't seem to do a lot of thinking, just worshipping. Anyway, this was a really interesting insight to me. And by the way, just to be crystal clear, I'm quite bullish on Bitcoin over the medium term. Those of you who don't know, I actually began purchasing Bitcoin all the way back in 2013. Unfortunately, those Bitcoin were involuntarily liberated from my possession. I made a video on that. I'll put a card in the corner if you guys want to see the story. Rip my Bitcoin. But also began purchasing again more recently. Of course, my position is tiny relative to the rest of my portfolio, which is predominantly Tesla stock and some real estate if you don't include my business assets as well. But the point I'm making here, there's a very vocal cult-like subset of the Bitcoin community who attack anyone who has even the slightest shred of a logical discussion about anything potentially negative about the one true God, Bitcoin. Elon also very explicitly stating that he believes in terms of probabilities, the probability is that cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and others are most likely to make the future better and empower individuals, and this is a good thing. Elon also shared a fascinating personal insight. So for those of you who don't know, Elon Musk had an extremely traumatic childhood. I won't go into the details there, but I tell you what, there isn't a person on earth who'd want to swap places with Elon Musk through his childhood, in my opinion. And Elon Musk disclosed, despite the fact that he's had a pretty challenging life, about 2/3 of all of the personal and professional pain he's experienced has been a result of his work at Tesla. Think about that for a moment. Really let that one sink in. Imagine you'd been abused as a child, had an extremely traumatic childhood, all sorts of terrible things have gone on in your life. And one single company, despite all of that, is responsible for 2/3 of the pain you've experienced in your entire life. This really gives you some context as to how important Elon Musk sees Tesla's mission. Why would somebody continue to endure such hell unless they found the mission so compelling that they simply had no other choice than but to keep moving forward despite all the pain? And on the subject of Tesla, Elon Musk also disclosed that Tesla has now done numerous gigawatt scale battery installations, practically all of them providing load leveling for the existing energy grid. As you guys may have seen in some of my recent videos around Tesla's Trojan horse strategy, this is just the beginning. Tesla over the long term is going to disrupt potentially trillions of dollars worth of energy, including oil and gas companies, utilities, and energy companies. Nobody sees this coming. And being a numbers nerd, possibly my favorite insight from the entire discussion was actually when Elon Musk revealed that Tesla's South Australia virtual power plant, their grid stabilization service, which has made a massive difference, was making adjustments at the microsecond level when the billing system was set up to only be able to track to the millisecond level. Now, some of you might be wondering, what exactly does this mean? There are 1,000 microseconds in a millisecond. In other words, Tesla's virtual power plant, Tesla's energy stabilization services for the grid were able to respond 3 orders of magnitude faster than the system was even set up to be able to detect. This is absolutely insane. There's no other way to describe it. And the thing that I keep emphasizing is that people aren't understanding the potential in Tesla energy. I think it's going to take years before retail investors and Wall Street analysts start to even see the potential there. In my opinion, between now and then, enormous buying opportunity for Tesla stock. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below. Are you bullish on Bitcoin? Do you own Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies? I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card, where you can earn 1.5% Bitcoin back on every purchase. There's a link in the description. You can also earn up to $250 in crypto bonuses when funding a new account on BlockFi, also linked below. And finally, don't forget your free stocks with WeBull and Stake, also linked in the description. These great offers also help out the channel. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.